All right, everybody, we wanted to kind of leave you with just some tips and troubleshooting tips and hints and things like that.
Yeah.
I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. Thought it'd be helpful, again, to kind of go over some of the questions that I get asked a lot and things to just look out for. One thing I wanted to definitely start with is any kind of flash card or memory card. Actually, I want to start with any kind of memory card problems with your SD cards. Okay? If you see a CHA error message flashing or the card icon flashing, you could have a problem with your memory card specifically. First thing, just swap out, try a different card.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lock switch, may, be set accidentally, and just check that. So that's definitely a very specific problem with your memory card.
And when you say lock switch, the actual SD card has a tiny little switch on it.
Very tiny, yeah.
And that can be in the lock position.
Sure,
So,
yeah, that's happened to me. Can't figure out what it is, and first thing I check is that little lock switch.
Good tip.
If you have other error messages, sometimes you may see an ERR error message. Again, not common, but in case you do, I always advise people to just kind of, start from the beginning. Take the lens on and off, okay? Maybe it's a communication error message. Again, try different lens. Maybe take the battery in and out, almost kind of try to reboot it. Try to narrow down if it's a camera issue or a lens issue. So that's helpful. Maybe you don't have to necessarily send both pieces into service.
Okay.
So just something to think about. The other thing I want to mention is that sometimes people forget what's going on in the viewfinder, okay? Now there's something called a buffer, a memory buffer. There's something called a buffer. A buffer is basically a little holding tank, okay? If you halfway to press on the shutter, you're going to see a tiny little R and a number depending on how you have the camera set up. We'll just say it's 12. I do a burst, fast action shooting. All of a sudden I see that little number go 12, 11, 10 and starts counting down, and then it goes back up. That buffer is a holding tank. It's helping the camera multitask. Camera's holding images in the buffer while it's writing those images to the memory card, okay? So if you ever see R0 and you're pressing the shutter, you can't take a picture, that's because the camera basically is busy writing images to the flash card.
So it's how many photos are remaining to be able to go into I always think are remaining. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's this. But I get asked that a lot because people aren't sure, what that R means because they think it's just about how many images you can take, how many images you have left.
Why does it always say 12?
Yeah, so that's, like I said, a common question. And if you're just doing like burst after burst of RAW, maybe you would actually see R0, and then you have to wait for the camera basically to catch up. Now, the other thing to pay attention to, again, in the viewfinder or if you're looking at the back LCD, what I purposely set here was I purposely set the bracketing button and also the EV compensation button. I get phone calls of people saying something's wrong with my camera. The exposure's off, but consistently.
Yeah.
First thing I ask them is, do you see a tiny little BKT? Okay. Now we can see here on the nice big LCD display, I know now that I have bracketing set. To turn bracketing off, I have to hold that BKT button and make sure I see 0F, okay? So again, I'm using my thumb in the back wheel, one click, bracketing is off, and now I see BKT go away.
And that is a great tip because, and you know what it is unfortunately, everybody that's watching this, if you've ever taken HDR photos or if you're interested in HDR, because I am, and there's nothing that I can do about this will happen to you. Just remember it. That's all I can say is just remember it because it will happen to you over and over again.
Yeah.
I teach it to people because I teach an HDR class. And I always tell them a tip, don't forget to turn bracketing off.
Yeah.
I'll go out on a portrait shoot, I'll start shooting, and it'll take me the better part of 10 to 15 photos to realize why my exposure is so screwed up and keeps changing. So
happens to all of us. So.
It does, and just make that one of your little checklist things.
Definitely. And like I said, you get that visual indication, that BKT's turned on. So just pay attention to what's going on in the viewfinder, or in the back LCD. The other thing, see how I see that tiny plus minus, on that analog scale? That's giving me, again, a visual that I have my exposure value compensation engaged. So now, again, I press that plus minus button, take my thumb in the back dial, I turn it back to 0, and now that goes away. Okay. So again, visual, again, in the viewfinder, pay attention to what's going on to make sure that you don't have anything set that you don't want. Cool. Another really cool tip, okay, so share with your friends, okay, buried in the instruction book, is that say I'm using, like I have right now, I'm working a single focus point, okay. I have it all the way far left, far right, again, or off center. If I just press
Ooh, I like this one. my
my multi-selector wheel once, it jumps that focus point right back center.
That's good.
So that's a cool one. So we like that one. Another tip that's, again, kind of buried in the instruction book is that we're working with 2 slots, card slots, right? Now we talked about a quick format. When I press both red buttons, FOR blinks, but I only see slot 1. If I want to just format my card in slot 2, while that's blinking, take my thumb on the back wheel. See how I now have card slot 2? Now I can actually just format card slot 2.
Oh, neat.
Just,
Yeah.
a quick tip. We talked about in the setup menu, there's a clean image sensor. Okay, so you can have that enabled to hopefully prevent dust from building up, in the camera. If you have something very persistent, you would still have to send the camera
Yeah.
in to be cleaned, because Nikon really doesn't recommend people doing
Cleaning
that on your
own.
own, because you could get into trouble. But just, again, a general tip is that sometimes people will remember to clean, their image sensor in the camera, but they forget about their lenses, okay, and their lens caps.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've seen people, be vigilant about even cleaning, wiping down this mount here, making sure nothing falls inside the camera. But their caps, either their body caps or
Yeah.
their lens caps, are filthy. They've lint in their camera bag.
Well, that's what a lot of people put them in. I put them into
the
my pocket.
pockets. Yeah.
And then when you take it out of your pocket and you put that onto the front of your camera,
Sure.
you've just transferred all that.
Yeah. So just like I said, be mindful. Again, dirty, inside of your lens cap is going to go right on the lens here. Also, when you're taking lenses on and off, advisable, put the lens down, on front first instead of on the rear element.
Which is kind of different than some people would think. You're always worried about the front glass, but
Yeah.
it's actually a lot tougher than
Yeah.
most people think it is.
Yeah, I mean, the rear element is definitely the more fragile.
Yeah.
So, always, and most people also will have a filter on here to protect it. So, like I said, definitely don't want that rear element to be scratched.
Awesome. Well, Annie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Seriously, you're a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Matt.
I know everybody out there that has a D7000 is much better off for having gotten all of the knowledge that you have about it.
Thank you. It's a great camera. Really excited, to shoot it, and happy to be here.
Well, great. Thanks again for coming by. We appreciate it, and hopefully we will see you back here very, very soon.
All right, sounds good.